Aloha, and welcome to another edition of A Better Day. I'm State Senator Sam Slom, and I hope you join us for the next half hour. We try to give you some information, some education, and some interesting thoughts that you might think about. We're going to have a very special guest in just a few moments, but let me tell you, as we're wrapping up the summer, we had our third special session at the legislature in the Senate, and that was to confirm two new district court judges, one from the island of Hawaii, another from the island of Kauai. Both outstanding choices for district court, which is really the people's court. District court is where the rubber meets the road and where most people get their first and sometimes their last look at the judicial system. And so it's important to have judges with good temperament, judges who can explain the law to you, and judges who make it so it's not so scary to go to district court. And I think that we have two really good ones in Dakota Friends on the island of Hawaii and Michael Soon on the island of Kauai. The Chief Justice nominates the judges for the district court positions, and Chief Justice Rechtenwald, I think, has done an outstanding job in the last several years in nominating people. Now, we're still going to have vacancies in the circuit court, which, if you have a circuit court vacancy, then it comes from the Judicial Selection Commission. They send 6 names to the governor, or depending on how many vacancies there are, the governor then makes the determination of who he would like to see, and it's still up to the Senate for advice and consent. So we take that responsibility very seriously, and it's a good way of vetting the candidates. We do that for judges, we do it for cabinet level officials, and for a number of department heads, and starting last year, deputies in a number of the departments as well. The hearings are always open to the public. It's something that you might like to come down to, and if you know any of the candidates for any of the positions, either pro or con, you're welcome to give your testimony. So that was our special session. Well, you know, I mentioned our second special session that had to do with a bill that the governor had vetoed over the privatization takeover of the Maui hospitals. We bungled that, and it's still in a bad position because now Kaiser has pushed back the start date for when they take over those Maui hospitals, and the people in Maui are under threat of not having hospital service after a number of weeks or a number of months, because Kaiser now is not going to be able to take over that job until next year. And I say we bungled it because the governor had good reason for vetoing that bill. Number one, it was going to cost $60 million to implement, which was not in the bill. There was no appropriation. And number two, the IRS had indicated that if that bill stood the way it was, special treatment for a select group of employees, that would endanger the tax-exempt status for the entire employees' retirement system, all active and retired state employees. So knowing that, the legislature went ahead and overrode the veto. Only the second Democrat governor's veto since 1962, the first being Ben Cayetano's veto of the age of consent. Now, the legislature never had any problem overriding Republican Linda Lingle's vetoes. More than 100 of those were overridden with ease. But we may have to go back into special session, or the regular session of 2017 may have to take up this issue of the hospitals on Maui, because it's not settled yet. And as I say, we bungled it because we didn't have a good plan or a good alternative, just reenacting the law, which the IRS says is not going to meet the tax-exempt standard. So we'll see what happens. Look, are you ready to vote? Are you going to vote in the general election? You better. I know you're not happy with the presidential candidates. I know you're not happy with a number of other candidates and a number of races. But look, we fell to 34% in the primary, lowest in the nation. We fell from number 1 in the nation when we used to have a voter turnout of 80 to 90%, now to 34%. Look, folks, it's part of your civic responsibility. You only have to vote every 2 years. and only for 5 minutes. Well, it's going to take a little bit longer for the general election. I'll tell you about that in a moment. But please vote. The idea that it's not important is not right, and that your vote doesn't count. It does count, and there are some very competitive races. So get out there, bring your family members, bring your friends and associates, and tell them, look, it is our civic responsibility to vote. Okay, now, what's going to happen in the general election that's different from the primary? First of all, in the primary, you had to vote only on one ballot for one particular political party. Some of you have asked, do I have to stay with that party during the general? Good question, but the answer is no. You can vote for a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, a Green Party member. You can do all of those things in the general election. So remember that. You have widespread voting in that particular ballot. But you've got something else. You've got 2 state constitutional amendments, and you've got, if you're on the island of Oahu, city and county of Honolulu, 20, that's right, 20 city charter ordinance changes proposed by the Charter Commission. And if you're on the island of Maui, you have several charter amendments there for the county. Same is true for the county of Kauai. Same is true for the island of Hawaii. It's really good if you do some research first before you go in and vote, because there probably is going to be a lot of blank ballots. And remember, at the state level, for the state constitutional, the 2 amendments that we have, a no or blank ballot counts as a no vote. And that's important, because if it's something that you feel should be passed, then you've got to take a position on. For example, here are the 2 state constitutional amendments proposed. One has to do with jury trials. Right now, there is a benchmark of a $5,000 amount in order to secure a jury trial. The number 1 amendment proposed would raise that threshold from $5,000 to $10,000. What do you think about that? Do you think we should stay at $5,000 so to ensure more jury trials, or the cost of the jury trials should be alleviated a little bit by doubling the amount? Think about that, read about that, and then vote on it. The second state constitutional amendment, and you'll like this, shall the legislature be provided when the state general fund balance at the close of each of 2 successive fiscal years is in a surplus position of and exceeds 5%, should the legislature now be able to say, you don't get any of that money back, and we can use it to pay off our substantial unfunded liability debt for both the retirement and also for the health care? What it means is you're not going to have any say if you pass this. Okay, so read over that. Now, as far as the 20 city charter amendments, I'm not going to go over all of them, but I am going to go over a few that to call your attention to them. And again, you should do your reading and do your research before you go in and vote. The question number 1 is very pertinent and very controversial and very timely. Should the police commission have greater authority to suspend or dismiss the chief of police? Well, in light of what's been happening right now, that's something that you might want to think about, something that you might think is important. Question number 7. Should the city use the powers to serve the people in a sustainable and transparent manner? What does that mean? And to promote stewardship of natural resources for present and future generations. And should the city, here it comes, create an Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency? And remember, if you create a new office, you're creating additional costs that goes on forever. You're creating more people that have to be paid, more benefits, and all of that. Well, as I said, there are a total of 20 questions here. There are other offices that would be created, additional costs. This is interesting. Question number 9. Should a Honolulu Zoo Fund be established and funded by a minimum of 0.5% of estimated annual real property taxes. You know already they're already looking at your real property taxes for more money for the rail. Now they want it for the animals. Where do we end with that? Taxes, taxes, taxes. You think about that. And then finally, it's a question of, this is question number 19. Well, no, I'm sorry. Question number 15. Think about this carefully. We have term limits for the mayor and for the city council and for the governor, but not for the legislature. Well, this pertains only to the city council and to the prosecuting attorney and the mayor. Right now, they're limited to 2 4-year terms. This would increase that for all of them, prosecuting attorney, city council, and the mayor, for 3 terms of 4 years. Do you want them sticking around more, or do you believe that 2 terms city term limit is good enough? You think about these and all of them. There are questions on the ballot that would give more power to Hart and the rail, that would not have as much oversight. So read these questions carefully, but try to be prepared before you go in the voting booth. Okay, that's what's coming next month, whether you have an absentee ballot or you're going to go in and vote on November 8th. Again, please turn out and vote and bring people with you. Okay, look, you've met him before. He is our able senior attorney and director of research for the Senate minority. His name is Tim Sutton, and he's back with us again, and we're going to do a little update. But first of all, Tim, you got to do a little update too. You got a baby, you got a haircut. What does all this mean? Tell us what's been happening.
Yeah, I'm a father now, so I have a 1-year-old daughter, and I have joined the U.S. Army Reserve. So I gained a baby and I lost a bunch of hair.
And what are your requirements under the Army Reserve?
So every month we do a battle assembly, which is basically a weekend of whatever our job would be. So I'm an attorney for the U.S. Army. I'm in the JAG Corps. And I support soldiers who are mobilizing, support their families if they have any family issues like divorce, adoption, administrative duties. If the Army needs any claims filed or civil lawsuits brought against them, I would be defending the Army. We're prosecuting those who violated the Uniform Code of Military Justice and are no longer going to be with the Army. Separate them.
How many JAG attorneys are there?
Right now, there's over 1,800 in the entire JAG Corps. There's so it's the largest law firm in the country. I'm lucky enough to have been part of the 200th class. So it started in 1775. It was went on hiatus. The JAG Corps did for 50 years, roughly. Was brought back in the mid-1800s, and now I'm part of the 200th class, so they've had 200 graduating classes, and each will vary in size from like 100 to 150, but my class was small. It was 62 newly minted attorneys. So we'll be practicing from Germany all the way to Beijing, China. We have people all over the world.
Now, even though you're an attorney and all that, did you have to go through a basic training and things like that?
So it's an exciting career move. It's something that's supposed to be a part of your civilian job. Then you go to your Army job on the weekends and 2 weeks out of the year. And it's a lifetime career, really. You're trying to make a commitment to serve your country honorably for as long as you are allowed to. So it's not a right. It's something that you're granted permission by the people of the United States who pay our salaries. We do what's called an officer basic course. It's 6 weeks long, and we learn how to be a soldier. So we do drill and ceremony, we do obstacle courses, we shoot rifles. It's a lot of fun. And then we do the lawyering.
But are you going to protect us in Hawaii, or are you going to sue us? That's what I want to know.
Both.
Both?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm part of a troop, a TPU, a troop program unit, which means I serve with the troops, and I'm their attorney in my job. But I am in uniform, and I go where they go, and I do what they do. If they're mobilized, I will go with them.
Great, great. Well, thank you for your service, and thank you for doing this. Now, how old is your baby? She
just turned 1 year old.
Yeah.
So you're
getting sleep now?
I have a fantastic child. She slept from like the 3rd month. She's a little sassy now. She's getting her own personality. Not from dad, maybe from mom. I don't know. But she's learning to walk, and she's learned a word. She's learned dada. It's the main word you need to know.
Really?
Yeah. And she's got a lot of facial recognition, and she knows which toy is which. So it's an exciting time. It's a time where you realize that you're getting older, and that you have a new responsibility to the community, which is not just to be a good citizen, but to raise a good citizen and to raise someone who will be a part of the community.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but good luck. It'll only last for another 17 years or 20 years or 30 years, who knows, right?
Yeah, as long as I'm able to do the job.
You know, you're talking about facial recognition, and the Hawaii Tourism Authority has teamed up with Expedia, and they're going to be using facial recognition to identify people to come to Hawaii. I thought we had a record number of people coming every year. It was the amount that they've spent that's been declining, but in terms of numbers of people, we're at record levels. And some people say, hey, shouldn't we talk about having a cap, or how many is too many, right?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting topic, you know, technology and the law. What is privacy? Or do you have a private right to your facial features in public? The answer right now is no. You're definitely within the means for them to do that. It just may feel maybe not like the aloha that we want to spread, where you get a targeted ad at you. But others would disagree and say, you know, it's better to get an ad that's for something you like or something that you're interested in than to just be hit with these, you know, generic things going on. So there's, I can see both sides to the issue, but hopefully we're heading in the right direction. We want every visitor to come here and actually feel what they're looking for. In my opinion, they want to feel the aloha sense of community and sense of getting to know nature and getting to know the people. And we want to keep that going. We want to have as few obstacles in the way, one which might be rail, something that makes them not visualize aloha. Or they'll say like, well, I'm in Hong Kong.
Nothing says aloha
or
like
a big
the train
city
to nowhere, right?
With this iron, you know, this steel on steel rail. It's not really the Hawaii that I envision. So we want to make sure that we continue to be the voice of those who agree with that stance, which is, you know, keep Hawaii the way it should be and the way that people that live here, the direction they want it to go.
Of course, sometimes that's hard to find out because people have different ideas, different groups, different interests, and so forth. Well, Tim is he's our director of research as well as our senior attorney, and you've been working on a number of projects, and some of them do involve privacy. You want to share some of those with us?
So one of our main projects actually that we worked on last year and will continue to work on this year, which unfortunately we had the departure of Senator Suzanne Chun Oakland. We were working a lot with what are real solutions, fiscal solutions to how we can get homeless people off the street and get them into services or get them reemployed. And our office has been working with your office and a lot of other stakeholders in the community to figure out like what are feasible solutions in the short term and the long term. We'll continue to do that work for this coming year. The other main thing on our agenda is this accountability. We want to make sure that there is a lot of accountability for all the spending going on with our tax money, our tax dollars.
What a concept! Be accountable for that money. And those of us in elective office, that's part of our primary responsibility is oversight, but we don't always do a good job finding out where the money is. And when we have budgetary hearings and we ask questions of these agencies, they don't even know where the money is. So oftentimes we find it's not a question of lack of money, it is a lack of accountability.
And then also an interesting thing that's been used recently is we've had Freedom of Information Act requests, and I think that's one thing that our office is dedicated to, and yours as well, which is just to be transparent. You know, if we can maintain that we are stewards of the people, we work for the people of Hawaii, and you know, they have a right to know what we're doing and where our salaries are being spent and what's happening in our offices and who we're talking to make sure that everything's above board. That's one of our goals, is to make sure we can help as much as possible to maintain that level of transparency on a legal playing field, which is just if someone will ask for information, we do it the right way, we keep records the right way, and we help the public get information they're trying to seek.
Is the information about your P card available? Oh, you don't have a P card, right?
Not yet.
Everybody talks about accountability and transparency, but in many ways we don't have it. I know that our budget director, Paul Harleman, has had difficulty in the past trying to get worksheets on financial matters and all of that. And oftentimes we have meetings and they go into executive session. So this idea of always pressing for more accountability and transparency is really a good one. And as far as our budgeting, we've talked to Paul before about the open budget, about things that we're trying to do there.
Yes, we still have our Hawaii Open Budget website. It's been updated regularly. Even over the summer we had updates, and we think there'll be more exciting developments going on online if people want to make sure that they check out the information there. It's there.
Yeah.
It's in various forms and charts and graphs and numbers, spreadsheets. So if you're a visual person, you can see it that way. If you're a numbers cruncher, you can look at the numbers. But really what it comes down to is when you see the amount of money being spent on certain projects, if voters before the election go and look, and then they see what's happening in their district and they see what's happening in problems that they might find are important.
If elected officials, before they vote on something, right?
Want to check it out.
Want to check out, find out about the money. I mean, it's just like when I was talking about that bill for the Maui hospitals and all that. And all of us voted for it. It was an ugly bill, but we wanted to help the workers. But we did so without adequate information about the costs and all. I mean, when the governor sent down his veto message, $60 million. Whoa, $60 million? Where's it coming from? We just had a court case against the state by foster families. And the state now is on the hook for at least $85 million in back payments. And we're still not caught up with that. The ERS has sued the state. We had a former PUC chairman sue the state. Why does everybody sue the state? Well, if they're trying to get a recovery, deep pockets, right? If they're not, these lawsuits still cost money. They still cost the taxpayers, don't they? You got to defend, you got to...
The taxpayer loses in any sense. So the best way is best planning up front, and we can't get caught up in the idea that people have the best intentions. So sometimes we need a realistic, well, all the time, we need a realistic picture of what the goals are, short-term and long-term, and what the financial constraints will be, and be real with our projects. Everyone has a novel idea or a very noble purpose to what they're advocating for when they come here to the legislature, but we have to prioritize and triage, what's the most emergent and important thing we need to do today for the people to get the state back on track where it needs to be, which is financially independent. We can look at our other island territory, Puerto Rico, and what's happening there, and other economies that suffer from the Jones Act, like Alaska, and just how are we going to, as a community who's trapped here in the Pacific, it's a beautiful place to be, but when the legal handcuffs are placed on us to do business here, we really need to focus on that as something
And we're not good at making changes, are we? I mean, again, we talk about change. We don't change. We don't change things, either process or procedures or anything like that, and that's really a shame. You know me, I don't get frustrated very often, but one of the things I get frustrated about is that we try very diligently, our office is more than any other in the Capitol, try to talk about fiscal accountability. And you can't get the media interested in fiscal matters, even though we dumb it down for them and draw pictures and use a lot of colors and all that. And you can't get the public either. And we try our best with things like the open budget application and our alternative budget, things like that we put up online, we print out, we make available. But you can't get people involved, and we try to make it as simple and as direct as possible because it affects every taxpayer, every family. And the thing that's frustrating is when some of these things that we forecast and predict are going to happen if we don't take different action, and then they do, and the public comes and says, why didn't somebody tell us? Why didn't they explain it to us? I mean, that's the frustrating part because we're doing that. But people just... They turn off. The media want stories about people fighting with each other or ethical violations, and that's all well and good. But the financial part of it, the budgeting part of it, the accountability, that affects all of us, and it's not just short term but long term. So, well, what do we do? Based
on what your opening was for the show, it's like the easiest way to do it is to vote. Because you may want a better future for yourself and your children. I have a 1-year-old. I want a better future for her. And I might not have the time or the resources or the knowledge to know, like, how am I supposed to do that for her? We have people in this building who have expertise in certain matters. We have legislators who have been working in committees and doing working groups and task force who know exactly what needs to be done. And if you continue to vote for the people doing the good work, that's the best way to make change happen.
Well, and we also have, we're very fortunate. We have the public access room here, which helps people, gives them plenty of information. They can come to our office, they can come to our research, although sometimes we get requests, a neighbor wants you to draft some legislation against the neighbor, right? That's always popular. We want less laws, not more laws, because many of the laws right now are unenforceable. That's part of the problem. Somebody says, you know, pass a law. We pass a law, but it doesn't get enforced, so people get frustrated. Well, that gives us a bird's eye view, and we will be talking about privacy issues like drones, because they're everywhere now. We'll be talking about, again, in 2017, our lack of statewide initiative, referendum, recall, and state legislative term limits. So there's plenty on the agenda. Anything I missed or anything that you think is going to be hot?
Just keeping an eye on the Maui Hospital and what's happening with our healthcare system, and coverage that mandates. I think the other reason that people get so upset, and we don't know what's going to happen this year, nationally or locally. There's probably less interest, though, in the campaigns and the election than ever before. And that's a shame, because not only do we have monetary issues, but issues such as air conditioning of the schools. We've been talking about that for 15 years. We've had money for that, but we haven't solved the problem. Homeless, you were talking about homeless. We don't enforce existing laws, we don't change zoning, and yet we've spent over $200 million. And is the answer just to give everybody a free home and free welfare? I don't think so. So we've got plenty of issues that we're going to talk about over the next year. So we thank our guest, Timothy Sutton. He's doing an excellent job, as I say, as the minority's chief attorney, and also as our director of research. And if you have any research questions, you can call Tim or you can call me. And if you need any help, as I say, the public access room is terrific. We'll be glad to help you. But remember, learn about your issues and vote this year. So for a better day, this is State Senator Sam Slom. Aloha.